In a recent video, we talked about how many of our viewers and friends have asked us to give us a best of list of the state parks that we visited, best camping, hiking, etc. So we have started compiling that list, although we're calling it our favorites list because, well, it's pretty subjective.
It is. I mean, what somebody considers to be a great park to do something in, somebody else may disagree with, and we don't want to get into that debate. But what we try to do is narrow things down and say, what's a favorite of ours that we would want to go back to? The first one that we're doing is hiking, and I think we started with the hardest one. There are so many great places in Michigan, particularly connected to state parks, for hiking. We had a really hard time with this one.
We did. Quite frankly, there's hiking in almost every state park, whether it's a short quarter to mile trail to everything from up to 40 miles of trails. And depending on what type of scenery you like, I mean, even those short trails are worthwhile.
Absolutely. And so some of them may be shorter, but they might take you to a historic building or something that's important in some way. So it's cool to do those. There's also a huge variety in Michigan of trails that are, some are paved. Some have different types of material down, whether that's more of a mulch or they've got some crushed stone in some places. That some places are ADA accessible on their trails, some places aren't. And there's others that are a pretty good climb at times.
Yeah, so we thought we'd just pick out a few of what we think are our favorites, sort of spread out throughout the state. So it just gives you a general idea. If you happen to be in that area, here's a place that you might want to check out.
So this is our short list of favorites for hiking locations, and I will put a link to all of these full videos in the description below so you can check out the original video for each of these state parks. One of our personal favorites of all the state parks in Michigan, out of all 103, is Porcupine Mountains Wilderness State Park for a lot of reasons, but especially for hiking because there are so many opportunities there.
With more than 60,000 acres, there are 90 plus miles of trails that run through that park. So you can hike for eternity, essentially. And you will see some awesome sights and get into some backcountry that most people don't get to. But if you're just there for a day or a few hours, there's some short hikes that you can go on as well. And we just really enjoy the variety and the scenery and the wildlife that you can see. And so it does really rank up there as probably our favorite.
Well, and there are a number of state parks where it is undeveloped, but because Porcupine Mountains is in the Upper Peninsula, undeveloped in there really means undeveloped. There's a huge variety of terrain up there that you don't get in other parts of the state. There are interpretive trails because of the history of the area with the copper mines and things that you can learn throughout the area on those trails. And it also has a unique situation because you have a regular hiking trail and then a boardwalk type of trail that lead you to Lake of the Clouds.
Lake of the Clouds is probably one of the most scenic spots in all of Michigan. It's on a clear blue day, especially in the fall with the autumn colors. It is just this massive overlook of Lake of the Clouds. It's truly a lake up in the mountains.
We're at Lake of the Clouds in the Porcupine Mountains Wilderness State Park. This is like your happy place inside a happy place.
This is very much a happy place. It's so quiet up here. We're here just a little bit in the off season, not quite peak colors, but after Labor Day. And it's just serene. And I don't really have the words to describe it. I'm just going to sit here and enjoy the view.
It's just amazing and gorgeous, and is one of the few handicap accessible spots in the Porcupine Mountains, because actually most of the trails up there are in the woods with a lot of steep climbs, rocks, roots, and everything, but Lake of the Clouds is open to everybody.
In the northern Lower Peninsula, you have Wilderness State Park, not to be confused with Porcupine Mountains Wilderness State Park. Why they named them almost the same thing, I don't know. But if you go to look them up online, that can get a little confusing for folks. So this is just Wilderness State Park, and it's another one of our favorites.
Wilderness State Park is located in lower northern Michigan, about here-ish. And it's 10,000-ish acres, 16 miles of trails, and they all kind of crisscross, intersect with each other, go through some dense woodlands, some open marshes by ponds, and what's really cool is they're all open to either hiking, mountain biking, or cross-country skiing, depending on the season.
And if you like to see the lake, it's on Lake Michigan. I think they said there's 26 miles of Lake Michigan shoreline in the park that you can get to at least some of it, if not all of it, by doing some hiking. So another great opportunity depending on what you like to do.
It's a great hike. If you don't mind giving a gallon of blood, not to the Red Cross, unfortunately, but to the mosquitoes and the black flies, So, wear appropriate clothing, pants, long sleeves, bug spray, hat, hiking boots, because there also is poison ivy. As the brochure said, there's a lot of nature here, but a lot of that nature is out to get you. So
I don't think that's how they put it in the brochure. You have to read between the lines, but that's essentially what it means.
I'm going to read it to you. It says, and I quote, "You should know that some elements of the natural environment are unpredictable and may be unpleasant."
So apparently it's out to get you.
Much further down in Michigan, in the southern lower peninsula, is the Pinckney State Recreation Area. And this is another one with a ton of land and trails. It's known for a lot of things, including fishing, but there's plenty of hiking to do there. And I think when we originally wrote about it, we said that you could easily camp and spend about a week exploring the trails at Pinckney.
There are almost 40 miles of trails spread throughout 11,000 acres at Pinckney, so you do have a lot of variety there. It is actually very well known for its mountain biking, but they share the trails, so you do have to be cognizant of that. But yet you can definitely hike there and be out for days, and it connects to the Waterloo State Recreation Area, and then there's the Pinckney-Waterloo Trail that runs between them, so you really have a lot of options at Pinckney, and we definitely encourage you to get out and explore that one.
Plenty of opportunity for hiking. If you do want to use those multi-use trails for mountain biking, it also connects to Lakeland Trails State Park, which is a linear trail for biking. So lots of opportunity in southern Michigan for you out there. There seems to be plenty of parking areas. There's some parking spots along the road where people were kind of accessing the trails because the trails crisscross the park all over the place.
They're everywhere. I mean, 40 miles, that's a lot of trails back and forth and round and loops and this, that, and the other thing. So plenty of opportunities pretty much anywhere in the state park.
And the last favorite we want to highlight today is the Ionia State Recreation Area, which is also in southern lower Michigan, but further west than Pinckney was. It's a really nice spot for some day hikes. You really enjoyed this park, I think, more than we thought we were going to.
Ionia is really one of the lesser-known parks in the system. It's about halfway between Lansing and Grand Rapids, and I think people just don't think of it an area to have state parks in. But it's really pretty. It's got a lot of activities going on besides hiking, but we did the 3.5-mile hike around the big lake, and we really enjoyed it.
If there's one thing about Ionia State Recreation Area that I've noticed, it's that the trail that goes around the lake is quite diverse in terms of what you see. There are different types of trails through the wood. There's a section that's more of a mowed path, but we think that's because it's by the disc golf course.
It's definitely been really pretty. We've walked through a lot of swampland and just with flower woods areas over a couple bridges, and I think they've done a really nice job with this place.
It goes through the woods and around the lake, so you've got a lot of lowlands with pretty wildflowers and some marsh areas, and so there was a lot of birds and deer and other things, that you'd see at different times of the year and seasons, and I just really liked it.
I think that what makes this one kind of unique is even with the shorter trail system, and I think we said, 3.5 miles was the loop we did around the lake, you went through a lot of different types of terrain and different environmental settings, so that was really kind of neat.
In addition to the loop we did, there are equestrian trails, mountain biking trails, and then there is a trail that goes along the Grand River. So you as a hiker can go on any of those trails and making them multi-use. So there actually lends itself to being quite a bit of options in Ionia State Recreation Area. This is the first in our favorites series, so let us know if there's a favorites list that you would like to see and we can help put it together for you.
We'll be doing several of these favorites videos over the next few weeks, so if you haven't yet, please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get notified when we put those out. In the meantime, keep on trekking.
And we'll see you out there. You said 40 miles? I'm pretty sure you said 40 miles, yeah.
11,000 acres, 40 miles, multi-use trails.
Did you say 11,000 acres?
I did not. I just said a ton of acres.
Anyway.